Hey Dawnfall, I've got a question for you. The fuck is this? What is that? What? Look, I don't want to say that I was right this early on, but good lord. Like, as far as first episodes go, that wasn't bad, but it was pretty standard. But I hate whatever this is. I said it on Twitter. I already knew that he existed, but I was sort of hoping he wouldn't show up in episode 1. But here he is, and I hate him. I never want to see him again, but he's clearly going to be plot relevant, and oh god, that whole scene was disgusting. So let's start at the start, shall we? So, oh my god. I think the little intro with Strength and Deadmaster was actually very good. It showed that they were overwhelmed, they were clearly frustrated, we got a lot of good emotions from them, and it tied in nicely to the very last shot of this episode, which I will get to. But other than telling us that they're overwhelmed, they need Empress, and they're frustrated at the fact that she's not here, it didn't do a whole lot more, which is fine, it didn't need to do more, but the exposition came in massive dumps, and that doesn't work. It never really works. No one wants to sit through an exposition dump, and they gave us 2, kind of 3 actually. It's probably a lot more than that, but there were 2 main ones that have stuck in my mind. So, I don't want to nitpick the animation. I'm not an animator. I can tween, I can do 2D stuff, but I don't want to, like, rip apart something that I'm not personally familiar with, but some of it looks really bad. Some of the 3D animation is just, it doesn't look like it fits. It kind of looks like they took assets and just put it over the top of everything else, and that to me comes across as very cheap. It feels like perhaps it was kind of rushed, or maybe they didn't have the budget they needed, or they put the budget into something else. Who knows, honestly, but just chucking a smoke effect over something to show that it's blown up, like, I would actually rather a cooler shot that shows like a spark and maybe a little bit of smoke, but actually shows whatever blew it up more in the frame. So say it's Empress, show us a point of view from the thing that's being blown up, and then you don't really have to animate much, but you can make it really flashy. Like, don't just shove a stock GIF over something. That's what it feels like they did, and I'm not here for it. The contrast between the mechs and the more organic looking monsters is very weird. I'm assuming we'll get an exposition dump as to why they both exist. I'm assuming they're both kind of as a result of Artemis, but get ready for more exposition dumps, I guess. Yay! The thing that was throwing people into the ocean was very gross, but I think the designs being that dramatic, that off-putting, that alien actually does work here. And I mentioned that if the designers wanted Deadmaster to look really alien, that they should have pushed her design more with like skeletal bits and more of the red detailing. But they went and put aliens in it. Like, that's the best word I can use to describe the more organic kind of creatures, and it just makes Deadmaster look worse. I don't know how else to put it. She looks so much worse comparing to the actual alien creatures that are in the show. Anyway, this Dawnfall is clearly meant to be very edgy and gritty, and I don't do edgy and gritty shows. Not when they're just like that for the sake of being like that. So, you know, lots of death and macabre, like showing decayed bodies and stuff. I'm not into that. It's disgusting. And it's very, very clear to me that Dawnfall is trying to appeal to a specific audience that is not me. I believe that specific audience is all the people that commented on my last video saying, I hope it's good. You know what? I hoped it would be good too. I hoped with every fibre of my being to have my expectations subverted. It's not done that. That's the simplest way I can put this. It's exactly what I was expecting. And you know what? I'm still gonna watch it. It might get better. But right now, it's not made for me. And I think that recognizing and accepting that is going to be a massive thing going forward, just for me personally. But if you are bothered by the fact that I don't like this show, I would recommend not watching the rest of these videos, because I am going to tear it apart. Speaking of things that clearly were not marketed to me, I don't like that Rock starts nude. I don't like any anime that puts characters in compromising situations just for the sake of it. It's like, you could argue, oh, she was in the pod, so she had to be. Like, no, she didn't. She didn't. There's never a reason for it. I'm not here for it. They should have just put her in clothes from the beginning, to be honest. Then they wouldn't have had her just conveniently fall onto a pod that opened and had her clothes in it. Everything in this plot is a bit too convenient. And I'm gonna touch on that a lot more, but just everything that continues happening, like Empress having to be ejected from the pod and having to land on the other pod that had her clothes in it. It's all happening to progress the plot. Like, nothing is meaningful. And I have a lot of thoughts on that I will get to. But for now, I think Empress realizing her gun wasn't loaded or that she didn't actually know how to use it was a nice touch. Usually when stories like this go for an amnesia plot, they just forget all of the big plot story beats like characters, events, but no, she forgot how to use her gun, and it's kind of funny. And not in like a laugh out loud kind of way, in like that's a very nice touch that actually fuels the amnesia plot. Look, I will harp on this so much because I don't enjoy amnesia plots. I think that they are just used as a tool of plot convenience so that the writers can exposition dump using the protagonist as a conduit. Like, the audience can play catch up. We can figure out that the world was blown up. The Colonel tells us, look at the world, you can tell it went to shit. Like, yeah, bro, you don't need to point that out. We can see it. We're watching this show. The key word there is watching. Like, show don't tell is such an important storytelling thing. And I went on and on about this in my review of the first season of Love Live Superstar. We can see that the world has gone to shit, dude. You don't need to tell us. That's useless dialogue. Like, you could have had the Colonel say in that conversation with Empress where she doesn't know what's going on, just have him motion to destroyed buildings or to like wrecked cars or, you know, this show likes being gritty, a bunch of corpses, the remains of all the mechs and maybe the humans that were fighting them. Like, just show us. Because that impacts us as the audience harder. Like, we go, oh shit, yeah, okay, this is bad. Like, it's actually an apocalypse and people are dying, but it hits Empress in the same way. Oh my god, I cannot fathom the amount of tell don't show that happened in this. Because the thing is, in a visual medium, you are shown everything anyway. So to have your characters say what is happening is redundant. Moving on. The sudden switches between 2D and 3D are exactly what I didn't want. Sort of going back to my previous point, it feels cheap. And I know that making a show like this isn't cheap, but I don't know, like, it felt like there were scenes that had both of them in the same shot, like one character in 2D and one character in 3D. That probably isn't the case, but the constant switching just felt like that. And look, credit where it's due, they've tried to match the 2 in 3D animation in terms of style. Like, the character models are in essence the same. And that's good. That's very good. But it is kind of clear that they didn't want to 2D animate the mechs and the big aliens because that's a lot to draw. There's a lot of details in there. And if they made a 3D model, they could make it very detailed and just reuse the same model. It's cost efficient. It makes sense. But why mix the mediums? Like, if you can mix those mediums in a way that is visually intriguing, aids the story in some way, or just looks cool, then more power to you. Go ahead. Go nuts. I mean, I use 3D models in my 2D illustrations, and sometimes, yeah, it doesn't translate. But that's why I am so fussy about this. Because I know what it's like to try and translate a 3D thing into a 2D shape. And sometimes it doesn't work. Perspective is difficult when you don't have the sort of subtle shading that a 3D model will naturally have. Anyway, I could stay on that forever, but I'm not going to. So at this point, while we're still in the facility, I'm gonna call it, we get our first exposition dump. I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember the humans' names. I think the sister is Mia? And is the brother Naruto? Maybe? Anyway, that's how forgettable they were. But they give us an exposition dump, and that's fine. It's like a few minutes. It's to be expected in the first episode of something. But again, they tell us like, oh yeah, like everything's bad, but we can see that everything's bad. For an amnesia plot, Empress has a real sense of direction, and I get that plot-wise that is being played off as instinct, but it's a little too convenient that she just happens to know, I have to go to the lighthouse, I have to protect these people, I have to fight those monsters. Like, instinct will only take you so far. I will buy that she knows I have to attack that mech because those are innocent humans. Because she saw they were getting attacked, like they were being hurt, and instinct is not always knowledge. It can just be she felt compelled to protect them. That may not have been her core thing, like that might not have been what she was built to do, but a little bit of character development, a bit of flavor on our protagonist would be that her instinct is that she protects the helpless. That could be the case. Maybe she does have that natural instinct, or maybe that was programmed into her. My bet is we're gonna learn that in another exposition dump, probably delivered by Deadmaster. That's my guess. Deadmaster seems like the next likely candidate to give us an exposition dump just because she is also, was it like the maskless fighters or something? The non-humans that are meant to destroy the elevator. Surely they have another name. If they gave them a name in that episode, I do not remember it. So, in terms of the way that the plot has been progressing, everything is just convenient. It feels like the writers didn't really know how to get it started, to get the trio reunited, or to get the trio fighting. Because that's what we see in all the trailers, right? Is Empress, Strength, and Deadmaster fighting. Well, more the latter fighting Empress, but still. The writers would want to get to that point because that's the big drawing that they put in the trailers, like, oh, we're gonna have cool fight scenes between these girls. Like, okay, I'll buy it. The fight scenes could be really well choreographed. Maybe that's where their budget went, but we don't know. We don't know yet. Obviously, episode 2 is gonna start with a bang because we're gonna get one of those fights. Like, what are Strength's motivations? No doubt we'll get that in an exposition dump. Haha. If we get more exposition dumps, I'm gonna be so upset. It is a waste of my time. The next very convenient thing was the black trike just appearing out of nowhere. Like, just, why? Instead of having Empress, like, fall on something and find her clothing, maybe she landed on something and braced herself and it activated the bike. You know, just, we could have done away with the whole she finds clothes thing if she had been clothed in the first place, and then her accidental activation of the bike would have led into that scene where it breaks through the wall. It's like, oh hey, you activated me, thank you so much. I don't even care that it talks at this point. I'm more worried about the fact that it just knew to go. It just knew where Empress was. Does she have tracking devices in her? Is she a robot? Or is it just the bike's instincts? Why do I feel like instincts is going to be a big thing with this series? Good writing will have things happen because they need to, not because they need to lead into the next thing. Something I've been learning a lot about in storytelling recently is engagement. Having plot beats happen for the sole reason of engaging your audience. If something happens because we need the plot to move to the next beat, it's not going to engage an audience. The black trike busting out of the wall was cool. Okay, a sentient motorbike came out of nowhere and saved the day. Like, okay, you can say that's a cool scene, but why? There's so many ways that you could have done that in a more interesting and engaging way that isn't just to get Empress out of a sticky situation. I feel like there's gonna be a lot of those kind of moments going forward. We're just gonna see, oh no, Empress is backed into a corner. What will we do? And then some Deus Ex Machina is gonna bust out of a wall and fix everything. And it will be excused because there was an explosion and it looked cool. Like, I'm not here for the explosions. I'm here for a good story, and it is not being delivered. So the next scene jumped to introducing Smiley, which was the most disgusting. I'm not sharing any screenshots from that scene. I hated it so much. Like, why? Why did they do that? What? Yuck. So we got introduced to Smiley and Lunatic. I'm not calling her that. I'm gonna call her Luna, because it is thematically appropriate and a better name. That scene introducing those two characters actually left me feeling physically grossed out. Like, I don't deal well with that kind of stuff in the first place, but to just have it start and end out of nowhere, nah. I didn't like it. I don't know why they had that kind of introduction for that character, like, oh, it's gritty and edgy. Like, I don't care. That was a gross scene, and I'm gonna call it out for what it was. It was useless. It told us that those characters were uncaring, and that was it. There's so many other ways that you could show that without being like that. You know, I'm not saying that they can't have like sexual references in the show, but I'm pretty sure that girl died. That was the implication, right? That's not nice. That's not a nice thing. And it feels like that was thrown in there just for the shock factor. Like, it told us one thing, maybe two things about Smiley as a character, but other than that, I don't know that it serves any plot relevance, and I'm scared there's gonna be more of it. I don't want to see that! I will stop watching the show if that continues, to be honest, because I don't want it. I don't even want to look at Smiley, but he's clearly going to be plot important. So, I mentioned earlier, I did know that Smiley existed. I watched the third trailer that released at a convention, like, the other week. I just sort of came across it when I was making sure that there was nothing too shocking that had been announced between the second trailer and the release of the first episode. And yeah, he was released, and that was the most shocking thing that could have happened. And then it got worse with this episode. So I tweeted that I didn't like his design. Like, he's bad to look at. He doesn't fit the world. And in that same vein, Luna also doesn't look like she fits, but she fits more than Smiley does. And this could be purely a visual thing, the fact that Smiley is just a 3D model, and it looks like he wasn't shaded properly to fit the atmosphere and the actual lighting of the scenes that he's in. It looks like they shoved him in on top. Kind of like if they had used a licensed character in there originally, and then they lost the rights and had to just shove something else in there. That's what it feels like. I'm assuming that's not what happened, but, you know, that's bad. He looks bad. I'm sorry to have designed him, but he's bad. I can't believe we got more exposition. So, the army picking up on Empress awakening, also very convenient. How do they do that? How? They just tell us. They're like, oh, we picked up on it. Like, they didn't show us, like, inside the trucks, maybe they had a little tracking device that blips non-human entities, and Empress showed up as an unknown entity. They just had us, oh, we're looking through binoculars. The chances that they would be in the same area are so slim. The characters even pointed out that it was weird that the army was out that way, like, out that remote. But they were only out there because of Empress. So, like, I'm sure that it'll be explained in the next episode, because my guess is that there will be a fight between Empress and Strength. Strength will vent her angers, and either they will kind of make up and agree to work together, or Strength will leave. She'll be like, actually, I'm not dealing with you. You suck. Goodbye. Who knows? but we know that Empress is going to end up at the settlement that the two humans mentioned. We're probably gonna meet Monica. She's on the website. She exists. I did think it was cute that Empress kind of was recycling the arcs, was it? What they call them, mechs? I've already forgotten. The fact that when she was fighting them, she got like a flash of memory. Like, okay, that's fine. Like, that makes sense. That could have been because she had fought these things in the past. Maybe she trained against them. It was like a real world memory jolt, if you will. And, oh, the cannon happened. She remembers how to make a cannon and then it vanishes. Like, okay. I think it was very, very convenient that she just knew how to make the cannon. Like, oh, it's instinct. Yeah, I don't care. But I do like that it only worked once. Like, she had one shot and then it was gone. That leads into a lot of cool narrative stuff. Like, maybe she can only use those materials once and then they evaporate. The robot husk that she used to create the cannon actually gets used. It's an expendable resource. That would be cool, but they didn't show us. They didn't show us if the husk was left, which is fine. They don't have to, but it would be nice because then we would know why she only got to fire it once. Like, it could be that if she absorbed or recycled the husks of really big mechs, that she can make a bigger cannon or a cannon that can fire multiple times. I guess we'll find out, because no doubt she's gonna get a bigger cannon at some point, and that's another Deus Ex Machina to keep your eyes out for. Strength's not yelling voice at the end when she addressed Empress, very good. Her voice acting's phenomenal. I know she's only yelled and said like 2 words so far, but oh my god, I'm in love with the voice. She sounds amazing. So kudos there. Like, I think all the voice acting in this is good. I do like that Empress has an air of naivety to her. Like, obviously that comes through in the whole amnesia thing, but the idea that she's kind of an innocent soul, haha, that's good manga, go read it. That idea actually works in her favor because, yes, she has this sort of air of naivety, but also it does work for the exposition dumps that the story has given us, because, oh, she's innocent in the way that she doesn't know what's going on. She hasn't been exposed to the horrors of the world. Okay, yeah, I'll give it to you, that works, it checks out. I think I would enjoy the story a lot less if Rock had come out of the pod and been very jaded, very distant, sort of just like, sees the humans, protects them, and is like, alright, piss off, I've done my job. That wouldn't sit well with me. I like how they've characterized her, and I think it works, so good job. I think that's all I've got for this episode. Man, I don't really know what else to say, to be honest. Like, I have a lot of thoughts, but if I keep talking, I'm not gonna stop. So I think for now, I will see you all next week, maybe. Depends how I'm feeling. Because honestly, I know this show is going to get difficult to watch. And the smiley scene really, really drove that home. And I may not finish it. I'm gonna do my best to, but the gritty edginess and the fact that Smiley killed someone, it doesn't sit well with me. It's the sort of shock factor for the sake of being a shock factor and being like, oh my god, he really did that. I don't buy it. I don't enjoy it. I know this show is going to get very difficult for me to stomach and that people are going to get pissy that I don't like it. But if you made it this far, you have to understand, I'm not the target audience. I don't have to like it. And you don't have to care if I don't like it. You can just leave.